Um, Now, I want to go into what's going on in Orlando. This is the city I live in. Yes, I'm in Orlando, Florida. And let's go to this article first. Yeah. And so this is out of the Orlando Weekly. And let me get into this with y'all. So it says Florida and Uber Lyft drivers launch effort to organize for better pay, better app policies. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I am mad. I am mad at a circumstance, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Because this stuff happened on Friday, and what happens on Friday? I have dialysis, so I am wiped out by the time I get home. So I had to sleep, and this was happening while I was at dialysis, and I was so upset. I was like, I wanted to be out there. And so, I'm gonna try to keep my ears to the ground so that when this happens again, or if it's still going on, then I'm gonna look and see if I can get my behind out there. And I'm not gonna take Uber or Lyft because I don't want to break a strike. I may end up having to take the yellow cab. Hey, it is what it is. Or if I had to take the city bus, it is what it is. But I'm gonna try to get out there to talk to the people out there because this is also very deeply important. And so solidarity with all the drivers for either a Lyft, Uber, or any of the other rideshare companies because they're really putting you guys through it. But this is out of the Orlando Weekly. It says Florida Uber and Lyft drivers launch effort to organize for better pay, better app policies as local rideshare drivers are organizing with a group that has come under scrutiny in the past by some labor activists and organizers. So this actually came out a couple days ago. And it says Uber and Lyft drivers have rallied outside of airports in Orlando, Tampa, and Miami on Friday to launch a campaign for fairer pay distribution and the right to negotiate for things such as better app policies and job protections. Coming on the heels of the killing of an Uber Eats driver in Pasco County, the organizing campaign for the Independent Drivers Guild is months in the making. According to Uber driver Adalberto Perez, an organizer for the New Florida chapter for the Guild. Nearly 100 rideshare drivers, mostly people of color, rallied at Airport Parks Lake as part of a planned work stoppage to formally announce their demands for Uber and Lyft. The two most popular rideshare companies, drivers say, hold on to a bulk of what they charge passengers, forcing drivers to work multiple jobs or work long hours to make ends meet for themselves and their families. So this is from Arifa Tirmizi. Says, we work hard for our money. We're immigrants. We are from the United States. We're from the United States, wherever you're from. But as humans, we have rights. We work very hard to support our families. And now we're here to make our noise. It goes further. It says the Independent Drivers Guild, formed in 2016, is an affiliate of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union. It is not a labor union in the traditional sense, in part because Uber and Lyft classifies its drivers as quote-unquote independent contractors and not employees, which affects the rights they're afforded as workers under federal law. The Guild is an organization that comes under scrutiny by some labor organizers, was born out of partnership between machinists and Uber itself. The group describes itself as worker-led and advocates for and represents more than 250,000 app-based drivers across New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Illinois, New York, and now Florida as well. According to the organization's website, the Guild's primary aim is to fight for the right to collectively bargain, in addition to securing a living wage for Uber and Lyft drivers and fighting unfair deactivation, in which driver is barred from picking up new rides in the RideSHARE app. So this is one of the pieces that I wanted to get into too. And this really adds the human element. Tunisi, a mother of 7 who drives full time, said one of the challenges with Uber for for instance, is that the labor for the support line is outsourced. You call the number you're given as a driver and end up reaching someone in a different country who reads you a generic script, promising you that the company will accelerate your case with no guarantee when or if you'll soon be able to return to work. And so, on top of all of that, the work is also outsourced because why? Because it's cheaper. And it says, and while it is often described as gig work, this isn't just a gig for many drivers these days. Many treat it as a full-time job. It says Perez, one of the earliest organizers for the New Florida chapter, says he drives Uber 6 days a week, often 10 to 12 hours a day. And so with that, you have people constantly being exploited day in and day out. And a lot of times, many of us will use these ride shares in order to get to our own jobs to be exploited. And the fact is that it is not fair that these workers are being exploited. And you can't say that, oh, well, it's because, they have more freedom. They don't have more freedom. If they actually did, then they wouldn't be having to work 10 to 12 hours a day just to take care of their families. And people will sit there and try to make excuses for people being exploited. No. Even more, I will say this. I think ride shares like Uber and Lyft should be worker-owned. They should. And in fact, they should not be independent contractors, because it's like, oh, they got the freedom. Freedom to what? Freedom to not have health care? Freedom to not have, benefits? Freedom to not make a living wage? Is that the freedom you're talking about? Because that's not freedom to me. That's really working under duress. And on top of that, you have to take in certain rides. Certain rides aren't really, profitable for you, because by the time you get there, then you have spent the money in gas to get to that place already. So therefore, you're not really making any money. And then if you got the people who don't tip, well, then you're SOL. Or if people who tip very low. But then you have to take the ride. You have to pick that person up. And so guess what? If you don't, then they can lock you out of the app from picking up even more people, which means that you won't be able to pick up anybody else. And so this is why these corporations either need to be either nationalized, stationalized, or municipalized, or they need to be worker-owned. Just that. Because you cannot sit here and see how these people are being exploited and say, oh, well, that's just a free market. And then when people honestly walk away and withhold their labor and say, well, all right, then if you're not going to give us what we deserve, then we're just not going to work. That's also the free market at work. So guess what? Then why not just give them what they asked for? But then you guys say, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. They do want to work. They just don't want to work for starvation wages. So, I mean, honestly, are you going to do business or are you going to do business? Because people are like, because look, these working relationships, it is business. And if you honestly expect people like me and all these other people to sit there and go, oh, just work for whatever the hell we give you. No, I'm not going to do that. If you honestly want my labor, then you're going to have to pay $1 for my labor. You're going to have to give me what I want. Or else you drive for yourself. You pick all those people up and you drive them to where they need to go. Go ahead, do it. Jump in your car and pick up all those people and drive them yourself. Man. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant, but, these corporations, man, they piss me off. They get on my nerves. So here's some of the demands. It says one of the Florida chapter's demands of Uber and Lyft is for better pay distribution. They want drivers to earn 70 to 80% of what the apps are charging riders. I think that's fair. Then Uber and Lyft can see the rest. So yeah, like a 70-30 or an 80-20. Shoot. Look, let me come close to y'all. Look, I'm game for 90-10. I said what I said. 90-10. Because who's doing the work? Who's doing the work? 90-10. Right? All the app does is just point. Hey, this person needs a ride. That person needs a ride. All they are is just pointers. That's what they are. So are we sitting here and letting the people who point be the ones that make the most money? Is that really? Because the people who have to get the car, have to get maintenance on the car, have to drive the car, have to fuel the car, what are they getting? Chump change? Are you serious right now? Really? And I live in Orlando, and these are the people that are taking you to these big corporations like Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, right? They're taking you to the Orange County Convention Centers. They're taking you to the Aquaticas. They're taking you to the hotels like the Marriotts. They're taking you to the Starwood hotels. They're taking you to all these different places where you all make this big money. And guess what? They aren't making the bulk of it, even though they're doing the bulk of the work. The person who does the bulk of the work should make the bulk of the money. This is why the workers deserve the surplus labor. Agreed. All right. Perez says it is unfair, not only for the drivers, but for the riders who have to deal with higher fares, especially when prices surge. Plus, riders don't understand that drivers aren't seeing that extra surge fare they're forking over to make it from point A to point B. So it's not just the drivers that are suffering, it's you and me. Right? Because, look, I'll put it this way. The gas prices could drop like a rock right now. Right now. But will the fares drop? Will they? No. Even if they drop, they'll do it just by a tad, just by a hair. And then they'll say, oh, well, we're dropping our prices because of, the gas prices drop. But in reality, they're not doing it. Because now they know that you can fork it over. They're going to keep making you pay through the nose just to get it. So instead of taking 2-hour bus ride for a ride that really takes only 15 minutes, but it takes you 2 hours on the bus, they're going to make you fork over out of that money just to drive for 15 minutes. Even though it shouldn't be that much. And then even if it shouldn't be that much, who should get the bulk of that money? It shouldn't be the person who points here, hey, right here, right there. No, it should be the person who's actually driving. And then people will go, well, here's another argument I absolutely hate. Sorry, I'm going on another rant. But people will go, well, the owners of the company, they're the ones that put out the most risk. Bullshit. They put out the most risk. Bullshit. They don't put out the most risk. Because guess what? The person who owns the company, the biggest risk they have is to become a worker. The biggest risk a worker has is to become homeless, hungry, and have no health care. Who has the bigger risk? It's the worker. The workers have the biggest risk, not the owners. Oh, So you actually have to work for a living. Boo hoo. The people who actually do the job, the people who actually do the most labor, they're the ones with the biggest risk. And so it's a lot of people who are immigrants that are drivers here in Orlando. Because many drivers give speeches in Spanish, but the cohort was diverse. A group of Brazilian, Colombian, Venezuelan, Chilean, Dominican, Haitian, and US born drivers asking to be afforded a living wage for honest work. So honestly, I also see even more exploitation of immigrants. Because while labor unions in Orlando are alive and winning gains for workers, gig companies like Uber and Lyft have long resisted classifying their drivers as employees, pushing to ensure their drivers remain classified as independent contractors. Says this holds serious weight. Unlike employees, independent contractors are not legally entitled to things such as hourly minimum wages, worker compensations, health insurance benefits, or the right to collectively bargain. Because the Independent Drivers Guild describes itself as the nation's largest rideshare driver advocacy group, but some labor activists have another term for it. It's a company union. And so a lot of us, are thinking about like what in the world, are like how much money is Uber pulling in? Because they could honestly very well um they could honestly very well just have these people as employees. It's not like they don't make enough. And so I was looking up um I really want to play this video, but it's through local news, and I don't want to get a copyright claim. See, it's an ABC affiliate too, and ABC affiliates typically don't. And I'm in Florida. I don't know. Because if I get a copyright claim, then, well, this video will be demonetized. Gosh, this is what I hate about living in this country sometimes. Because it's the news. It's like you have a copyright claim on the news. Like the hell. I'm thinking about taking that risk. If anything, I could just mute it. Eh. All right. Hopefully, fair use. All right. All right. So let's hope.
Some Uber and Lyft drivers turned off their apps and rallied here at Orlando International Airport. Rideshare drivers across the state now demanding higher pay, better working conditions, and a union.
Which I honestly think that they absolutely deserve. Actually, I think they deserve more than that. I honestly think that the drivers who actually, well, yeah, I honestly think that the drivers should be, you know, uh, be worker owners. That's what I say. That's just what I think.
Demonstrators told Channel 9's Q McRae they currently have no voice with the companies.
Well, as you can see here behind me, there's easily 60 to 70 rideshare drivers out here right now as they're wrapping up their protests for the day. But the fact that they're out here right now means that they're not behind a wheel and they're not picking up drivers over at OIA.
Which costs money for companies like Uber and Lyft. And the thing is that OIA, the Orlando International Airport, is a massive hub. Massive hub. We have international flights all over the country. Remember, Walt Disney World is here. Not Disneyland. Disneyland is small. Walt Disney World, right? Massive. Massive. Walt Disney World, Universal Orlando, SeaWorld. Then you have Legoland, not too far. You also have Busch Gardens, that's in Tampa. Like, this is an entertainment capital. Besides Orlando, then you have places like Vegas, you have LA, as far as entertainment capitals, right? So yeah, just to give you guys a little bit of a background. That's Orlando.
They marched, they chanted. Dozens of rideshare drivers unified, all wanting the same thing.
And the right to unionize.
This rally is their push to launch the Florida chapter of the Independent Drivers Guild, a union for rideshare drivers already established in several other states around the country.
So, of course, I always have solidarity with unions, of course. I do have some reservations about union leaders. In fact, Workers Strike Back actually put out a tweet about union leaders and how some union leaders are in cahoots with the corporations that they're supposed to be adversarial towards. And so they will basically work against their own union in order to fight against the union so the union doesn't have that much power. So I think it's very important for union leaders also to be with their rank and file. So that's one of the things that I think. And I also think that beyond unions is more worker ownership. And if you guys are watching me on RBN, you guys would have saw that I actually talked about what is an employee stock ownership program, where they call employees owners, and I put that in air quotes, whereas you have a worker co-op, which is a democratic say in how your workplace operates. If you guys would like to, you guys can go to the JB show on RBN. I actually talked about that. I should talk about that on here on this channel too. I'll probably talk about it on this channel too, just to, just in case there's any people who, have not seen it on RBN. But yeah, if you guys would like to, I actually talked about that. A clip came out a couple days ago on RBN as well, me talking about it, but this is very important. But this is why I am more for worker ownership, because it literally democratizes the workplace. And democratizing the workplace is furthering democracy within our country. See, and a lot of times you have people who go, oh, we don't need democracy in the workplace. And I'm like, so you're against furthering democracy? Please tell me more. So, yeah.
Ba has been a driver for Lyft and Uber for more than a decade.
For far too long, drivers been working really hard, putting their heart and soul into this industry, making these app companies billions of dollars.
Hang on. It's hard to believe that, wait, Uber and Lyft have been around for over 10 years? It's been that long? Really? It doesn't feel like it's been that long, has it? I feel like it just started. But, all right. Let's continue.
Yet they are taking some change at home.
As union members, they hope to negotiate fair pay, app policies, and job protections with Uber and Lyft directly. Currently, rideshare drivers in Florida have no voice with the app companies over even basic things like pay and how much the app companies take in fees from each fare.
So drivers are fed up, they are upset.
They give us like $132 just to go to Miami. That's 3.5-hour drive. And that's ridiculous. Yeah. And they charge the passengers about maybe $300 or $400.
Drivers are demanding.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're yes, and they will go long distances. You know, it's 3.5 hour drive to Miami. Crazy part is I've never been to Miami before. But anyway, but yeah, it's like $300 to go to Miami on Uber. Meanwhile, you can get on Megabus and probably go to Miami for $80-$90 on Megabus. It might be a little bit higher now because of the gas prices, but you just have to sit on a bus with a bunch of other people. It's not private. So, and then they're not charged, and then they're not giving the bulk of the money to the driver. That's the biggest problem.
A living wage. With gas prices and other expenses skyrocketing in Florida, drivers' pay has not kept up, and drivers are struggling to make ends meet.
I think it's horrible, and they're being greedy.
This is time for change. This is time for them to have a seat at the table to talk about their working conditions.
Now, these Uber and Lyft drivers tell me they're not done. They're going to continue to push and fight until they are officially members of the RideSHARE Driver Union.
So yeah, that's what's going on with them. Let's also get into the dollars and cents of it all, because I wanted you guys to see like how big Uber and Lyft are really in the United States. Let me see. I know I have. Okay. All right. So this is out of the New York Times. It says Uber reports record revenue as it defies economic downturn. Says the company, which was hit hard in the early stages of the pandemic, saw revenue jump 49% from the same period a year ago. And this was a couple months ago. It says Uber indicated on Wednesday that it had staved off a downturn that hit many technology companies while posting what Dara Khosrow Shahi, Uber's chief executive, called this company's strongest quarter ever. Uber reported $8.6 billion in revenue in the last 3 months of 2022, a 49% increase from the same period a year ago when the variant of the CV dampened travel. I have to be careful what I say. The company made $30.7 billion in gross bookings, the amount of money paid by customers, a 19% year-over-year jump. The company said it had tallied 2 billion trips in a quarter for the first time, up from 1.7 billion a year ago, and saw an 11% increase in the number of customers who use Uber each month to 131 million people. 131 million people. That's almost half this country. Says results slightly exceeded the expectations of Wall Street analysis. Says even as other tech companies like Google, Meta, and Microsoft have announced widespread layoffs and slashes, Uber's business has stayed relatively steady. And Mr. Kawasaki said last month at the World Economic Forum in Davos that he is not anticipating company-wide layoffs. So it is crazy how much they are making. They're raking in profits. And let's get into also the compensation of the CEO of Uber as well, because these CEOs are making out like bandits. Let's go to the Google machine. Google machine, $24.3 million. Uber CEO Dara Khosrow Shahi, saw an increase in his pay package in 2022. Uber Technologies Incorporated Chief Executive Dara Khosrowshahi total compensation last year rose 22% to $24.3 million, the company disclosed Tuesday. So $24.3 million on top of it all, right? And this is just one thing to always look for. Never look for CEO salary. Always look up CEO compensation, because this includes salary, stock holdings, things like that. Because they will not tell you all. Just seeing the salary will not tell you the entire story. So there's that. And then also, let's go after Lyft. So this is out of Bloomberg. It says Lyft tumbles as profit outlook misses Wall Street estimates. And so it says Lyft Incorporated shares sank after giving earnings outlook that significantly missed the analysts' estimates as it prepares to sacrifice profits in a bid to attract riders with lower prices. So they're trying to be they're trying to be more affordable, I should say, rideshare and Uber, but they're screwing over their workers too. It says the company projects adjusted earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization in the current quarter of $5 million to $15 million, missed in the $86.3 million at average estimate in a Bloomberg survey. Lyft reported adjusted EBITDA with a loss of $248 million during the final 3 months of 2022. It says the San Francisco-based company attributed the loss to a regulatory disclosure change, which requires companies to count insurance reserves, cash set aside to pay for claims, and other insurance expenses. So, they're making a lot of money. It says Lyft projection for revenue of $975 million in the current period also fell below expectations. But that's almost $1 billion that they're making. It's a lot of money. And that's with Lyft. And then also let's look at the here we go. The Lyft CEO. And this is out of salary.com. You can look this up. It says chief executive and co-founder of Lyft, Logan Green, made $13,909,482 in total compensation. So $13 million, $13.9 million, almost $14 million. And so, but what about the drivers? Like, he's making all this he's making all this compensation, but the drivers, who are really the ones behind it all, the labor, they're not getting anything. People wonder why I'm a socialist. Jeez Louise.